going to be blessed with a lesson from our dear Carol Scroggins. The lesson is Unified Field Theory. I can't wait to hear it. Thank you.
And turn out the lights. Yes.
And silence your cell phone.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Well, this lesson was inspired by Dan's book, Dan Davis. The title of his book is From Ancient Aliens to the Ship, the Grand Unified Field Theory. And for those of you who need a refresher, the unified field theory is an attempt by physicists to explain every phenomenon, how everything works, with one mathematical formula. And it turns out, in their explorations of trying to explain with one idea everything, that they come up with the idea that everything, if you get down to the smallest level possible, is not a thing, but a vibration, that it's movement. And in their explanations of how this works to create everything that exists, they come up with the idea of a divine intelligence. Sounds awfully lot like the description of God to me. And one of the phenomena that Dan discusses in his book is what kind of captured our attention all last year, 2012, 21, 12, this whole idea of when the world is shifting, which was not just a Mayan idea, but the Mayan get the most credit for it, because their calendar specifically says the world, one age or one world cycle ends on this date and then it begins. Does that mean it's instantaneous? No. But in the Mayan thought, 2012 clearly marks the end of a 5,125-year cycle. And in our movement throughout the galaxy, it takes 26,000 years for us to make one procession. And metaphysicians often divide it into 4 cycles of 5,000 some years each, as the Maya did. This date, this infamous date, depending on your perspective, marked an end and a beginning simultaneously. And in the Maya worldview, it was what they referred to, or what's translated as, this is 0 point. In other words, getting back to where all potential and possibility exist. So it's a blank slate, we're starting over kind of thing. But you might ask, well, what does that mean? It's a question we are all being summoned to ask ourselves. As we each witness and experience the turmoil and rapid changes taking place on planet Earth, it is clear that our future is unknown, with too many factors and influences to possibly account for. There are endless predictions, projections, and hypotheses put forward to proclaim our possible collective future. But in reality, who can be certain of the path ahead? We each have to make our own. The date of 12/21/12 can be understood as an alignment of vast timing cycles, both celestial and planetary, that were recorded precisely to alert us to the potent opportunities of these times. The Maya say we will be entering the 5th world, the Aztecs call it the 6th sun, the Hindus call it the 6th world. I mean, there are cultures around the world that refer to it in different terms, but as an understanding of this period of time means the end of one thing and the beginning of another. So what does that mean? Again, what does as the Maya timekeepers say, the Earth herself is transitioning into a new cycle. And all of our debate about global warming is an indicator of that idea of change. Climatic change has happened throughout the existence of our planet and will continue to happen. And it will happen whether or not we are here or we can do anything about it. It's a natural cycle. But this reality makes it more essential than ever that we attune to the living process and potential that this transformation might represent for us. So, we must find new ways to heed the calls to align our human lives and culture in harmony with our biosphere, with our planet, with our home. And despite what we might think, Mars is a long way off. And Mars is probably not the next place we're going to be. And I don't personally think I'd want to live on Mars, even if it were possible. So the changes in the planet, I think, correspond with changes in human consciousness. That, and however we might perceive those changes, it contributes to our spiritual evolution in one way or another. So we're being dragged along, kicking and screaming, whether or not we want to go. You know, it doesn't matter if we want to stay stuck. You can stay stuck, but how long will that last? Probably not very long. In Buddhist thought, there's this idea that once a critical mass of people reach what Buddha referred to as enlightenment, but has reached this epiphany, this spiritual thought, once a critical mass of people reach it, it automatically kicks in for the people who haven't gotten there yet. So the small group bring along the many. And it's a shockingly small number of people who need to be in that state. 1% of the population, I think, according to the transcendentalist. And there you have some evidence to show that 1% of people can influence the behavior of others. All of their experiments have to do with positive influences, but yes, can influence it. So we have the opportunity to ascend to a higher level and to perfect our spiritual evolution through our relationships with each other, with the spirit world, with our understanding of things, and through our relationship with the changes on the planet. Many ancient indigenous prophecies point to these times as bringing an actual mutation of humanity into a new species, catalyzing us to begin assessing new capacities and new untapped levels of human potential. And there is some evidence that, humans, the way we are now, is fundamentally different than our ancestors 5,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. The Quiche Maya say that the New World Age will be governed by what they refer to as the fifth element, which roughly translates to ether or air or the sky or space. And this idea that all that has been hidden shall be revealed, making all known. Our task is to access that information, to become aware, to integrate it in our way of being. As we attune to these forces, to this voice of earth, to this collective consciousness, we receive guidance from what this author is referring to as the living consciousness of earth. And we can then enter into deeper states of harmony, learning to re-engineer our human culture to once again find balance in the great web of life. So our whole perspective should be toward this idea of balancing energies, of being united in mind and heart, logic and intuition, spirit and matter. This crucial balancing can bring far-reaching personal and planetary changes, thus making it all of these predicted ideas of the golden age, the age of world peace, actually come about. So does that mean it's easy, smooth as can be? No, there's much work to be done to rebalance our humanity and find harmony in living within our planet. Now, it doesn't mean that these processes aren't taking place. And there's a lot of hope. As I listen to the young people of today, the youth of today, you know, their ideas are fundamentally different from mine or from other people. I mean, to them, anybody over 40 is old, and their vision for what the world is going to be is actually pretty exciting. Vastly different than what I might plan, but it has energy. It has, you know, and many of the young people that I interact with, even those that are in very troubled situations, like in group homes or foster care or in mental health programs, you know, they're in some ways kind of colorblind. You know, they're not looking at people and saying, you know, and defining them by their racial or ethnic identity. You know, and that to me is like as an example of this unification, this idea that we're all one, rather than seeing people as different and separate. They discuss people in terms of how they're alike. That's very encouraging to me. I'm inspired by that idea. And they look at things in ways that are unique. For example, I was recently writing a grant proposal to do sobriety counseling, if you will, for teenagers with substance abuse problems. Well, now my thought is, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy. How boring, I found out. So in talking with these kids about what it is that would represent a good therapeutic model for them for sobriety, to envision sobriety, to stick it with a sober living plan, they wanted to do art. So this proposal, which got funded, was for these kids to build an individual sculpture that represented what sobriety was to them. And they tell a story with their little art piece. It's still a work in progress. They haven't finished them yet. Tell a story about their journey for sobriety. You know, but they're doing it in this expressive way, in this, it's a material representation, but it's also a spiritual and psychic journey. And I was like, well, this is different. But the key piece, though, is it's going to work for them. They're engaged with the whole idea. They help plan the writing of it, so they've got an ownership of it. And I suspect that these kids will be able to stay sober. Now, sadly, it's not going to be 50 kids. It's going to be probably more like 10. But it represents this shift in thought. You know, and my training as a counselor didn't involve this kind of expressive work, but I can see the value of it. And these kids have convinced me that that's the train of thought I should be looking at when I'm writing proposals that benefit them in some kind of way. So it was a unique, different way of connecting, you know, and I feel encouraged by them. So, regardless of appearances, there is much cause for celebration and triumph in this new world order that we're working toward, and this grand cycle. And some, depends on who you're reading, some people say this unfolding will take at least 50 years, some say 300 years, some say 500 years. But the point is that it's it's not a backward movement, it's a forward movement. You know, that change will happen. Change is the only constant in the universe, as they say. So let us participate consciously in honoring, acknowledging, and attuning our consciousness to this process, that we would be encouraged by others who are on the same path, who are working toward this changing the usual way of doing things. And some of our usual way of doing things have worked well, and some not so well. You know, and we should give up the not so wells and look at the things that do work. And happily, on that winter solstice, 12/21/12, sacred sites around the world were activated, countless prayer groups and visioning groups were happening around the world to kind of participate in this collective consciousness to move us all forward. And all of us understood it to be a landmark day, that we were united in intentions and consciously opened ourselves as instruments to receive and transmit the vibration and guidance that comes from this new world movement, this new shift in consciousness. And as we embark on our journey into this thing, we all have ways of making sure that our lives get in order. And one of the ways unity people do that is through prayer and through affirmation. We do an affirmation every week. Many of us do it every day. Rosa sends us an affirmation every day. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it's perfectly matching whatever needs to happen that day. You know, for those of you reading Rosa, how many of you read Rosa's affirmations every day? Huh? Don't you find that they're appropriate, that they just sort of like go, yep. And that's sort of an example of being in attunement, being able to, you know, participate in that.
Buy her book if you want to see even more.
I know.
That's in the bookstore. Thank you, Barry.
And it's reasonably priced, so I mean, everybody can afford it. Okay. So what comes next? And one of the observations that I hear lots of people making, and I make it myself, is it seems like time is speeded up. And many particle physicists say that's in fact true. The vibration of the planet has gone up. There's a measurement that's been taken of the planet ever since we had the instruments to figure it out, called the Schumann resonance. And it's measured in megahertz. And from the time we were able to measure it over 100 years ago until the mid-1980s, it was like at 7 megahertz. It was perfectly, it happened that consistently. Then, in the 1980s, it started creeping up, and it's now at almost 14. Okay, so the vibration of the planet itself has amplified, and we feel that. We're part of the biosphere, so we feel it. And according to this one author, that sensation of being accelerated will happen through July of 2013. And as we continue awakening from our cosmic amnesia, from being stuck in traditions, and realize the immensity of our existence, we can open to new dimensions of our capacity and see and broaden our vision. We go from looking like this to having more. I'm going to finish a lot sooner than I thought I was going to. And Dan concludes his book this way. He says, I want to contribute to the awakening of the spirituality currently underway on the planet, in the world. And he says, if everyone is aware of the unity of everything, and if everyone is aware of the unity of everything for the positiveness in the universe, then the potential for change could be more profound. Indeed, probably more than we can imagine. Probably more than we can imagine. And that's an amazing thought to me. And during the lunch between the end of service and the beginning of the annual meeting, Dan and I are going to continue the book circle from this morning. So if you want to, to get some more ideas and hear more about his book and some of the observations he has, you can join us in the book circle. And he has lots of information. His book is just. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've kind of covered quite a bit of stuff. There's a movement that's gaining some speed to change the calendar. We have 12 months. This group would like to make it a 13-month calendar. It actually has a lot of logic attached to it. I think in terms of preparing us all psychically and practically to convert to that will take a little time.
You have a little trouble with the IRS.
I know.
They're designed on quarters.
Yes, I know, huh?
Yeah, abolish them.
And the Maya had a 13-month calendar. They had 12 months, and then they had this 13th month, which was shorter than the others. But they thought it was very, very unlucky and inauspicious to be traveling through that period of time. So, but there's some logic to this idea of a 13-month calendar. And calendars have changed over time.
True.
And, they change in response to political concerns and practical concerns. And so, but it's worth looking at, I think. But I'm not ready for it personally yet.
That's sort of like we might have a little bit of a trouble adjusting like we do when we change when they change us.
Daylight.
From
Daylight savings time?
daylight
Oh,
savings time,
please,
you know,
what
I
does
mean,
it say?
That's hard enough.
I know, so, but it's fascinating, and some of the material that I was using is from the person who is spearheading this movement to do, and she's been working on this for the past 16 years, and she's gaining a little bit more momentum every year, so, yeah, but it'll be interesting to see if that goes. But thank you for your attention and your time this morning, and I look forward to some of you in our book circle, and then the annual meeting, which is, as Paula has emphasized, as Ron has said, it's important to get your feedback, especially on our two candidates. Whether or not you're a member, your feedback is important. So thank you.
My soul has eyes to see, the truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. there is no tribal clan. And the warlords all have vanished, and still the men from there, the